Hi everyone, my name is Elaine, and today I'm going to be both summarizing and reviewing the 38th novel in Terry Pratchett's Discworld series, I Shall Wear Midnight, starting with the summary. Chapter 1, A Fine Big Wee Laddie. Tiffany Aching is a witch whose setting consists of all the villages along the chalk. During the scoring, Horace, a cheese Tiffany had created, wreaks havoc during the cheese rolling event, forcing Tiffany to assist the injured. Then, Roland arrives with whom we can assume is his new girlfriend, Letitia. Tiffany is not pleased. Chapter 2, Rough Music. 15-year-old Tiffany is called out to contend with a case of domestic violence. Mr. Petty, an angry drunk, had beaten his daughter, who might not actually be his daughter, and kills his grandson. Tiffany sends him away before those who played the rough music had a chance to get to him. Chapter 3, Those Who Stir in Their Sleep. Tiffany takes Amber, the injured Petty child, to the Kelda for care. The Kelda worries Tiffany's working herself too hard and mentions that she has been having premonitions about Tiffany. The Kelda says that Tiffany is clouded in my head, danger around ye, and the worst of it is, I cannot see from whence it comes. That's on page 40. The Kelda fears for Tiffany. She worries that the young witch caused something to stir when she kissed the Wintersmith. The Kelda asks her husband to watch over Tiffany. Chapter 4, The Real Shilling. Tiffany sees a mysterious omen. A hare bursts into flames. Tiffany returns to the Petty's barn to bury the baby and discovers that Mr. Petty had hung himself. She rescues him despite her better judgment. Tiffany buries the baby. She gets the sense that she is being watched and hears an echo. She flees. Tiffany takes Amber back to the Aching's residence for continued care. Tiffany tends to the sick Baron. She takes away his pain and agrees to keep his son in check, as her grandmother had once kept him in check. Tiffany confirms that she had rescued Roland from the Queen of the Fairies. The Baron gives her a reward for having saved his son, a leather bag filled with $15, proper shillings, worth about 5,000 Ankmore pork dollars. After demonstrating a trick in which she moves heat around, the Baron is reminded of the hare song his father had taught him after he had been upset by the sight of a hare who had leapt into a fire. The song goes, the hare runs into the fire, the hare runs into the fire. The fire, it takes her, she is not burned. The fire, it loves her, she is not burned. The hare runs into the fire, it loves her, she is free. That's on page 70. The Baron dies. Death comes to collect him. Chapter 5, The Mother of Tongues. News of the Baron's death begins to spread. Tiffany lays the body out. Then she heads for the Feegle Mound to tell the Kelda the news. After informing the toad of the Baron's death, the toad tells her that Amber can speak Feegle. Then the Kelda, who already knows of the Baron's death, confirms that Amber has learned to speak the Mother of Tongues just by listening to it. The Kelda describes Amber's abilities as a gift, a magic in which she knows of the words' meanings in her head. In essence, Amber possesses the gift of understanding. The Kelda suggests training Amber, or at the very least finding another outlet for her rare gift. Amber refuses to leave the Feegle Mound. Tiffany informs both her mother and Amber's mother that Amber won't be staying with them. Chapter 6, The Coming of the Cunning Man. The Kelda reads the memories of all the Keldas and sees a man with no eyes. While on the road, Tiffany encounters an eyeless man who casts no shadow. During the course of their brief conversation, he says, "You are the witch. You are the one. Wherever you go, I will find you," before vanishing. That's on page 104. Then Tiffany spots another hare. Tiffany vows to discover what's going on. Tiffany arrives in Ankmore Pork. Chapter 7, Songs in the Night. Tiffany informs Roland of his father's death. His fiancée, Letitia, her mother, and maidservant overhear. Tiffany notices the eyeless man again. The words he speaks before vanishing seem to negatively affect Roland, who turns on Tiffany, is upset she let his father die. The Duchess accuses Tiffany and the Feegles, who accompany Tiffany to the city to help locate Roland, of attempted theft. Despite the fact that the tiara that was purchased for Letitia is where it is supposed to be, Tiffany and the Feegles are arrested by the Watch. Upon speaking with Mrs. Proust, a witch who works at Bavo's and has been helping Tiffany around the city some more, it becomes apparent that something is affecting people's views of witches, making them both fearful and mistrustful, making them think the worst of them. Mrs. Proust realizes that the trouble really started again. It happens in cycles, roughly 2 years ago, when Tiffany kissed the Wintersmith. She wonders what Tiffany awakened. The wee free men escape prison. Chapter 8, The King's Neck. Tiffany is released from prison. She encounters the eyeless man again on Ankmore Pork streets, but is soon shepherded away by Mrs. Smith. She tells Tiffany a story about a witch finder who captures a beautiful witch and falls in love with her. He walks toward her uncertainly, caught between unfamiliar feelings and a sense of duty. The witch grabs him and they wind up burning together when the torch is dropped. This led to both the death and birth of the Cunning Man. He continued to hunt witches and has the power to possess people. This leads to their death. Miss Smith explains that the Cunning Man awoke when Tiffany kissed the Winter and ends her explanation with, he wakes up, he drifts, he looks for her. He looks for you. That's on page 160. Miss Smith makes it clear that it would be really bad if the Cunning Man caught Tiffany. Miss Smith explains that the smell emanating from the Cunning Man is coming from his mind. It's the smell of corruption of thinking and of action. Your mind picks it up and doesn't know what to do with it, so it files it under stink. All the magically inclined can smell it. But when people encounter it, it changes them, makes them a little bit like him, and so trouble follows wherever he goes. That's on page 162. She explains that the Cunning Man must be defeated with cunning. Tiffany realizes she is Escarina Smith. Suddenly, Esk announces that the Cunning Man has found Tiffany. Esk orders Tiffany to flee. She obeys. Chapter 9, The Duchess and the Cook. Tiffany and the Feagles return to the Chalk. When they arrive, they discover that the Baron's guards are trying to dig up the mound to retrieve Amber. The Feagle, especially Rob, are not happy. Tiffany attempts to defuse the situation, but things don't go quite as she had hoped. Amber doesn't want to return to her parents, and the Kelda informs her that Amber understood part of the soothings. She's as close to being a Kelda as any human could be. She's a treasure not to be thrown away. That's on page 181. Tiffany takes Amber to see Roland, who fears she may have stolen from his father and has continued to think rather poorly of her. Tiffany informs him that she is taking Amber back to her parents. The girls fall asleep. Tiffany awakens to her room on fire, but it's all in her head, as are thoughts of the hair. She realizes someone is trying to tell her something. Chapter 10, Melting Girl. The Baron asks Tiffany to leave the Chalk. After arguing with him, Roland orders her to stay within the castle's environs. Tiffany allows herself to be locked up. She is visited by Roland and a few others. She discovers that they intend to keep her in the dungeons until after the wedding and that the weeping Letitia was sorry and didn't mean something. Tiffany crafts a shamble and discovers that someone within the castle's walls is using magic and is sorry for it. Tiffany escapes and makes her way to Letitia's room. The girls speak, and Tiffany discovers that Letitia feels like a prisoner since she isn't allowed to do much, wanted to be a witch when she was little, and wanted Roland not to like Tiffany quite so much. Essentially, that she's the jealous type. Tiffany comforts her with the truth. The pair leave the castle together. Tiffany soon discovers that Letitia used the ostrich trick to make people dislike her, and that Letitia is more magical than she first appears. Chapter 11, The Bonfire of the Witches. The girls can't figure out why the spell Letitia used from a book she got through the Boffo's catalog worked, but know it must be undone. Unfortunately, it's in the library back at Letitia's home. They begin their journey and soon arrive at their destination. Upon discovering how Letitia cares for the home's ghost, Tiffany realizes she's a witch. Letitia undoes the spell. The Cunning man tries to escape from a copy of the Bonfire of the Witches. The girls keep him from escaping with a book press. Tiffany believes Letitia may have summoned him by playing at magic, a matter of inches away from a book that boils with evil, vindictive magic. That's on page 253. That Letitia's actions led to her results in the Cunning man locating Tiffany. Tiffany explains that the book is a window, which makes it easier for him to travel and reach her. The girls head back to the castle. Chapter 12, The Sinnoh Sins. Tiffany speaks with Roland. He asks to be forgiven for his actions now that he understands more of what happened from a conversation he had with his fiancée, who wishes to pursue her dream of becoming a witch. Tiffany hears the Cunning man. He speaks of how he will burn her. She wonders how he keeps finding her. Tiffany vows that she won't allow the Sinnoh Sins, the destruction of an entire people, to occur. She will keep the humans from so much as threatening the Feagles home again. S takes Tiffany to the Traveling Now. Tiffany confirms her suspicions that the Cunning man has many hiding places like books and pictures and discovers that if she is defeated by the Cunning man, witchcraft will both fail and fall with her. Mrs. Prouse discovers that Macintosh has escaped from prison. She heads for the country. Chapter 13, The Shaking of the Sheets. The old Baron's funeral is held. A trio of witches, Mrs. Prouse, Miss Cambric, and Mrs. Happenstance, arrive at the castle. Mrs. Prouse informs Tiffany that the Cunning man is now in possession of a body, that of a murderer. Nanny and Granny had come with Margaret and her husband supposedly for the funeral and wedding. Tiffany knows that Granny is really there to kill her should she fail. Chapter 14, Burning the King. Tiffany comes to understand why the hare leaps into the fire and devises a plan. Tiffany leads the Cunning man into a field that had been lit on fire in order to defeat him. She had used her cunning to outsmart him and survive. She had realized that the hare jumps through the flames so fast that she barely feels them. And when she lands on hot ash mostly. A grass fire burns out quickly under a strong wind. That's on page 326. Tiffany informs Letitia that she had wed her and Roland when she had led them through the fire and they had jumped over it together. Chapter 15, A Shadow and a Whisper. Roland and Letitia are officially wed. Tiffany asks the new Baron that the money she received from his father be put to good and specific uses, such as the construction of a school on the Chalk. She also requests that the downland above home farm be given to the Feagles. Roland agrees. Epilogue, Midnight by Day. Amber's husband, William, the tailor, presents Tiffany with a black dress. She loves it. Amber is training under the Kelda. The Feagle and humans are living together harmoniously, and Tiffany is dating Preston, a former guard who is now training to become a doctor. He gives her a necklace with a golden hair. Tiffany is in love with both the necklace and Preston, and that's the end of the novel. Now, on to my book review. I really do not like this book for several different reasons. First, I felt as though it was pretty dark and did not feel like a YA novel. It also didn't feel like a Tiffany Aching novel. The other novels in the Tiffany Aching series up until this point have been light and fun. This novel was filled with darkness and depression, more difficult topics like abuse and a steady stream of deaths. This is not something that has come up in the Tiffany Aching novels previously and contributed most to my dislike of it. Discworld novels for me are novels that are funny and satirical and playful. This novel was none of those things, and it didn't put me in a better mood when I was done reading it. Furthermore, the Tiffany Aching books were the ones that first got me into the Discworld series. I started with The We Free Men and made my way along Tiffany's story, but if I had started out of order with this novel, I can promise you I would never have picked up another Discworld novel. This book was depressing and dragged on for far too long. I also really didn't understand the point of Amber's character. It seemed like Pratchett was building her up to be extremely important to the plot, perhaps someone that helped Tiffany defeat the Cunning man. But after her many excursions onto the page in the first half of the novel, there really wasn't anything involving her until the very end, and Amber was not a part of the time in which Tiffany finally overcame the Cunning man. She really didn't do anything, so I'm left confused. Did Pratchett originally have other plans for her and then abandoned them in favor of what we saw in the book? Was he building her up to be used in later novels, at which point why not just stick her in them? I'm not really sure what happened here, and I'm a little confused. With that being said, I've always felt like Tiffany was a very relatable character, and that hasn't changed in this novel. She struggles with a sense of otherness, being apart because of her status as a witch. I think this is something that most people have contended with at some point in their lives, perhaps because their family is less affluent than others in their neighborhood or something of that nature. So it was good to see Tiffany's relatability continued in this novel. I also felt as though Tiffany and Preston were cute together. Tiffany spends a good chunk of the novel being jealous of Letitia, but slowly falls in love with Preston, someone who fits her far better than Roland. It was nice to see Tiffany's gradual acceptance of the way in which her relationship with Roland has changed and the birth of a new relationship with Preston. I also liked how these relationships, especially the budding one between Tiffany and Preston, wasn't a dominant aspect of the story since I'm not particularly interested in romance, but I understand its importance in a person's life. So overall, I gave this book a 2 out of 5 star rating. And there you have it, my summary and review of Terry Pratchett's I Shall Wear Midnight. What did you think of my summary, and what did you think of my review? And of course, what did you think of this novel if you read it? Let me know down below in the comments. I always like to know what you guys think. And if you like what you saw here today, please smash that like button until it's blue, subscribe, ring that bell so you'll know what's up, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye guys!